The Sigma 16mm F1.4 is a legendary lens in both the content creation and live stream space, but it's not exactly cheap, coming in at £350–400, so is that cost worth it when you're just posting videos online? The Sigma 16mm F1.4 is a wide-angle, fast aperture lens designed for crop sensor cameras. That means that yes, it is a 16mm lens, but you have to multiply it by the crop factor of the camera you're using. For example, I'm using the Sony a6600 right now, and this is what 16mm looks like. But if I was to put the exact same lens on a full-frame camera, you get a shot that's this wide instead, and not only that, you end up with some vignetting because this lens doesn't cover full-frame sensors. That means if you've already invested in a full-frame camera like the A7 III, A7S III, etc., you're not going to get the full use out of it because you have to use this lens in crop mode or crop it in post. So what is it about this lens that actually makes it so popular? Honestly, I think it comes down to a couple of different things. One, it's going to be the aperture of the lens. Two, the cost of it. And three, its ability to perform in low light. If you're anything like me and you make content at home or in a small studio, basically you don't have much space to work with, so having a wide-angle lens like this one is super useful because it makes any space that you're working in look a little bit bigger, and you get to show off all of the nice design and lighting that you've actually put effort into. However, the majority of wide-angle lenses don't often go down to apertures like f1.4. Most of them, the fastest you'll get is like f2, maybe f2.8, which is okay, though it's still pretty good, but you're not going to get this like super shallow depth of field like you do on the Sigma 16mm. And honestly, I think that's what the biggest attraction for this lens is. Most people, especially if you're a beginner, see blurry background equals more expensive, and I kind of get the appeal of that, which is good, and that's why this lens is so popular, because the cost to performance is actually really good with this lens. You get an amazing aperture of 1.4, but you're only paying £350–400 for like an equivalent full-frame lens like the Sigma 24mm. You're paying more like £600–700 instead, which is like a big difference if you're really tight on budget. And that's a big part of buying a setup like this. The majority of people are going to buy an APS-C camera and a lens like this are going to be relatively new to content creation or be buying it for a very specific reason. So they'll want to keep size down, cost down, and just make it as easy and as simple to use as possible. As I said earlier, low light performance is something that a setup like this excels at, and honestly that's going to be a great thing if you're a content creator or someone who especially plays games and live streams online, because, well, you don't want to be distracted by super bright lights when you're looking at monitors. You're going to have loads of glare. It's going to just be very fatiguing if you're live streaming for long periods of time. So being able to actually lower those lights and still be exposed well is something that all creators can appreciate. For example, with this setup right now, I'm using a light which is 60 watts, but I've currently got it around 30%, but I can actually lower that all the way to 10% and then use the aperture to expose it correctly, and it still looks pretty good, although the style's changed a little bit. And that's something you're going to struggle with if you're using a kit lens that only goes up to 3.5, because right now I'm going to have to go up to around 80–100% of this light to actually be able to expose me correctly, or I'm going to have to up the ISO, which is also going to add noise and grain and just make your image look worse. Okay, so we've established it's actually a good quality lens, but the issue is it actually worth it for you and your content? Obviously that's a very vague question, and I can't answer that for everyone because it depends on the type of content you make, where you're making that content, and your budget that you have to buy all the equipment. But the main reasons I can think of for potentially not picking up a lens like this is, number one, it's a prime lens. Personally, I absolutely love shooting with prime lenses. They're my favorite, and I've been shooting enough video and photos and stuff to know kind of what I'm going to get from a certain millimeter. But if you're new to this, you don't know specifically what is best for your space or the type of content you shoot, and you have to be really sure that you're going to need a 16mm if you're going to buy this, because that's all you can use. Secondly, the cost might be a big factor in not buying this as well, and I know earlier on I said that the cost is a great thing because this lens is so cheap. Yes, it's cheap for the actual quality you get compared to other lenses, but as a beginner, if you've just spent all your money on a camera body and other things to actually set it up, you might not have much budget left over to upgrade your lenses from the kit one that came with it. And last but definitely not least, do you actually need it for the type of content you make? For example, sure, this looks good if I'm just doing a talking head type video now, or if you're someone who makes like a just chatting stream and most of your content is you talking to a camera like this. But if you're a gamer, most of the time your content is going to be you shrunk down into the corner this big. Are people actually going to appreciate the the extra quality in the background blur when you're literally just a small square in the bottom of the corner. Personally, I'm a bit biased and I'd think yes, but obviously from an audience point of view, I don't think they're really going to occur, because ultimately the content is what matters, not how it looks on a platform like Twitch. Ultimately, I can't tell you whether it's worth investing in, only you can decide that depending on the type of content and your own budget and whatnot, but I can tell you that it's a fantastic quality lens that's super versatile for many different things. I've used it for talking head videos like this, I've used it for my TikTok videos, vlogs, live streams, and I've even used it for professional work filming weddings. Not every creator is going to be able to afford a lens like this, not every creator needs to actually buy a lens like this, but most of the time if you do buy this lens, you're more than likely going to be happy. If you enjoyed this video, check out some others I made on filmmaking and content creation, drop me a subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one.